Hello and welcome to vChat episode 45. Today we're talking about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, blockchain, Ethereum, all kinds of cool stuff. I'm David Davis from Actual Tech Media and VMware Videos, and I'm proud to be joined by
Simon Seagrave from techhead.co. How you doing, David?
I'm doing great. Simon, how are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks. This is the first one for a while. It's great to be back on a vChat again.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's great to get back into it. We've had fun chatting on the pre-conference here. We got lots of cool stuff to talk about today. So, before we jump into it, what's been going on? What have you been up to?
Yeah, so since we last spoke, big life change. Now live in the US. Moved from Kent in the UK with work, transferred internally over to my same role, but over here in Massachusetts. So we've been over here since beginning of September, and it's great to be over here. Much easier with work being close to the office, and one big advantage, I guess, as well, where both you and I, for the first time ever, we're in the same time zone. So it's going to make it a lot easier for recording these vChats going forward.
That's right. That's right. Well, we're glad to have you, and I'm glad that you're so close by in the same time zone. Absolutely. I hope we can record a lot more vChats. We always, have fun talking about home labs, enterprise technology, and today just talking about something that kind of it's a little more, consumer oriented, or I don't know, just general technology oriented, maybe cryptocurrency. So. I've been doing great, doing lots of events with Actual Tech Media and attending some cool conferences. I think on a future episode, we're going to talk about, I went to reInvent, my first reInvent, learned a lot of cool stuff. I know you went to CES.
First time.
Yeah, I would love to go to sometime. So we can talk about conferences past and conferences future. That might be the title of the next episode. I kind of like that. So anyway, great to be on. And, the topic for today's episode actually came from a tweet that I saw you posted recently, where you showed a picture of this new mining rig that you were building in your garage. And I don't know anything about cryptocurrency or mining or anything like that. It's something I'm personally interested in, and I want to learn a lot more. And so I thought, hey, I'll play the guy with all the dumb questions, the entry-level 101 questions. And I know that you don't consider yourself an expert in cryptocurrency, but you've got some experiences to share. So I thought that would make for a great vChat today. So I guess before we jump into it, we should do some sort of disclaimer, because people do a lot of speculation on cryptocurrencies. Trying to make money. This show is not offering financial advice. Past performance does not indicate future results. We're not recommending any financial investments here.
Yep.
We're just talking about cool home lab stuff and some toys in the garage, or
exactly
the garage, as they say over in the UK. Is that what they say?
Still the garage. No, it's the garage.
The garage.
The garage. I know. I'm picking up on all these little nuances now between the. You think the English language would be the same, wouldn't you, everywhere? But no,
is that where they keep the spanners?
The spanners,
the hammers and the spanners in the garage.
Actually, what would you call a hammer? A spanner's a wrench over here, right?
Yeah, I see. I didn't know what a spanner was until a couple of years back. So yeah, hammers and spanners. Yeah, it is a hammer over here, but I've never heard of a spanner before. So that's a wrench. So we're learning all kinds of cool stuff.
Definitely.
So let's talk about some cryptocurrency stuff. So I've heard of, blockchain, I guess, is kind of the general technology behind all this stuff. What is blockchain to begin with?
Yeah, good idea. I think let's start with the basics. And like you say there, David, I am literally a home enthusiast when it comes to this. The reason I got into it originally was I was just interested in cryptocurrency and blockchain. I saw it as an up-and-coming technology, and I just wanted to learn more about it. And that's where I started, and that's where I am today. So like you say, disclaimer, I am not an expert in this at all. I don't claim to be. It's just a bit of fun for me. It's a 50-50 thing. A, it's fun. I love doing the mining. B, I love finding out about the technology, and it's fast evolving as well, which makes it very exciting. But yeah. So let's start with the basics. I think that's the best thing as to what is cryptocurrency, what is blockchain. So the best way to think about it is a blockchain is similar to, it's generally called a digital ledger. So a ledger is something, obviously, whether it's in the pre-digital world, it's something where transactions are held, whether that's generally financial, or whether it's maybe contractual, or something like that. It's where records are kept. So blockchain is a sort of modern day ledger. So it's a digital ledger, generally distributed, which is one of the deemed one of the key benefits of the blockchain, i.e. no one person or organization, country, company, or otherwise owns this ledger. It's distributed. No one person owns it. Now, the benefit of that, what everyone likes, it means, because no one particular person or organization, country, etc., owns it, it means that it's inherently resistant to modification of the data within it, which is great. The other thing is, you get a lot of people going, well, the government, or the man doesn't own this ledger, type of thing, and it's a very sort of anti-establishment type thing, which some people kind of take, have that take on it. But the majority of people, I'd say, just like it. It's not tied in with a particular financial institution. Let's say we're talking finance, So, I mean, at the moment, digital ledger, if you think about your bank account, I mean, the value, your worth financially is, it's not like you've got gold bars sitting in the corner of your room, or a stack of cash or anything like that. It's kept in a ledger held by your banking organization of your choice. Now, that's great and what have you, but the thing is, it's one organization, one banking institution that holds those records. Now, what happens if they're modified at all, or they get corrupted, or something, hackers break in, or something like that, where that centralized ledger, and obviously these financial institutions, they're good. I mean, they've got measures, many countermeasures in place to enable this not to happen. But pretty much, your value, let's say you've got all your financial worth with one single financial organization, it's a single point of failure potentially. Now, the benefit of this, because it is a distributed ledger, once again, this could be financial, it can be contractual, whatever. It is distributed, potentially globally, and there's no one owner of it.
Okay.
So that's one real benefit. And blockchain, on top of a blockchain, you can run a couple of things. Everyone thinks of blockchain, they think Bitcoin, they think cryptocurrency. But on a blockchain, you can actually run contracts as well. So, whether that's automotive, maybe, property, agreements between two people, all these type of things, contracts can be held on a blockchain as well. And we're starting to see sort of more use cases in that space starting to come through, which is very exciting. But obviously, the one area that's driving this forward is Bitcoin, in the crypto space. And you mentioned mining there. So mining, blocks is generally, or historically, always being linked to the cryptocurrency markets, which sits on top of the blockchain. And that's where I entered into it about, back in 2013. So I've been sort of dabbling in it for a while now. And that's when I started mining.
So Simon, with Bitcoin mining or cryptocurrency mining, what exactly are you mining? Like, what's the mining rig doing?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, David. So this is the bit where it takes a while to sort of wrap your head around a little bit. So like I mentioned, you've got this distributed ledger, and within this ledger, you're going to have sort of single transactions logged within this ledger, and obviously associated with the transaction, you're going to have an owner associated with that. Now, for this to be distributed to all the nodes, or the machines running in this blockchain, there has got to be obviously some reward system. I mean, people aren't just going to spin up these miners, pay for the electricity and the hardware for nothing. So there's got to be a reward system with it. And how do you work out who gets rewarded for running these hardware devices? Whether it be a person like myself who's running a couple of graphics cards in their garage, or whether it's someone over in China who's got a massive mining farm over there. So what there is, the blockchain is based on these mining people out there doing this mining, and the function of the miners is to update the every time a transaction's made, is to update the blockchain and to ensure the authenticity of the information. So ensuring that the transaction is secure and is processed correctly and what have you. So what the miners receive in payments for this is a small portion of the particular cryptocurrency for doing this. But obviously, if you've got a sort of, hundreds of thousands of miners out there, well, how do you determine who gets the money and where and what have you? So generally, it's sort of wrapped in quite a complex algorithmic, and this is the bit where I get very fuzzy on it, quite a complex algorithmic equation that these mining nodes need to resolve, and then whatever node resolves it generally will win. It's a bit like a competition, I guess. It will win the payment for that particular block on which the ledger information for that transaction or transactions is kept. So everyone's out there, it's a bit of it's something of a lottery. Obviously, the more mining resource you throw at it, the more the better your chance of winning. Payment from successfully being the first to resolve that particular algorithmic equation. Now, these algorithmic equations can fluctuate as well. They're not of the same difficulty all the time. So depending on how many nodes there are out there on the blockchain for this particular, let's say it's a cryptocurrency, let's say there's not as many, well, they're going to make it easier for this algorithmic equation to be solved for every block. And that, generally every block may runs in the likes for Bitcoin, I think it's every 10 minutes or thereabouts. It will generally change that algorithmic equation, the complexity of it. So generally, as a rule of thumb, it will be resolved every X amount of minutes. So yeah, that's what the miners are doing. They're there, twofold job: to hold a digital copy of the blockchain for the cryptocurrency locally. So they're one of the distributed nodes, but also they're trying to going flat out trying to resolve these complex algorithmic equations and thereby, if they're the first to do that, then they win their portion of the payments for that particular block. So I hope that explains it. I mean, like I say, I don't profess to be an expert, but that's pretty much that's my understanding of what my mining rig in the garage is doing anyway.
Okay, almost like distributed auditing. That's kind of how I picture it. I may be totally off still because I'm still learning this, but distributed auditing around the world of the chain and the transactions.
Exactly. And I mean, that's the beauty of it because it's distributed as well. I mean, exactly. There are sort of checks and balances to ensure that block is as it should be. If someone tries to go in, change the block, I mean, the rest of the nodes on the network won't recognize that at all and go, hey, that's incorrect, i.e. someone's tampering with it.
So you said you're mining both for education, to learn about blockchain and cryptocurrency, and as well as to hopefully, break even, who knows, maybe make a little money off of it as well.
Maybe. I'm not going to be retiring anytime soon.
So what does it take to mine? What are you using? Let's talk about your lab, your mining rig.
Yeah, sure. So I'm currently running with 6 graphics processing units, or GPUs, in my garage. They started off with 1 originally, just to dabble my toes in the whole technology. It is very addictive, actually, when you start doing it. You start with 1 GPU, before you know it, you've got 3. Once you get to 3 or 4, then you're starting to, you can't put those in your desktop case anymore. So you're looking at a different type of enclosure on which to run them and keep them cool at the same time. And that's currently what I'm running. I mean, so one thing I should mention as well. I mean, these, to mine, at least the cryptocurrencies I'm mining, I'm just running. They're just standard PCs. They're a standard motherboard with memory, CPU, etc. With normal off-the-shelf graphics processing units. So nothing particularly special. Where the secret sauce is, however, is in the software that runs on top of the operating system.
And the GPUs, right? I mean, the GPUs are really the workhorse behind this. The CPU, for the most part, is just kind of sitting there. I don't know if it's idle, but
yes,
it's not that relevant, really. It's the GPUs that are the factory of the mining. Is that true?
Yeah. So the GPUs do all the heavy lifting. So, I mean, depending on what you're wanting to mine, let's say you haven't got a GPU and you want to sort of get into this, there are, cryptocurrencies out there that have been created or rather optimized to run on CPUs as opposed to GPUs.
Okay.
And then out there, you've got some cryptocurrencies, the algorithm, etc., are better tuned to run on AMD cards versus NVIDIA cards and vice versa. So depending on what you want to run, I mean, historically AMD GPUs have been showing better performance for mining cryptocurrencies, the NVIDIA, but this has changed in more recent times. Partly because there's been a massive shortage of AMD GPUs. Everyone's jumped on the bandwagon wanting to make a fast buck. When you look at GPU prices here, I mean, for example, I picked up a couple of GPUs last year, mid to late last year, and I think I paid about $300 each for them. The same card now, when I had a look earlier today, was $600 for the same card.
Wow.
So, there is a real shortage globally, and obviously the PC gamers out there just hate the miners out there at the moment because they're just pushing up the price of these GPU cards out there. But it's interesting, because there was a shortage of AMD GPUs, you're finding that some of the newer cryptocurrencies coming out are more streamlined to either run on NVIDIA or AMD, and some of them actually run better on NVIDIA now than AMD. So it really depends on what you're mining. But like I say, you've got CPU, you've got GPU. More mature, established coins such as Bitcoin. I mean, that's the big one that everyone knows, right? I wouldn't even attempt running that on a GPU now. I mean, it's got significant, hash power on a GPU, but what's happened over the years is you've actually got companies that produced proprietary ASICs that have been designed to just run these algorithms on that particular proprietary ASIC. So it's much more efficient to run than on a GPU. So you may find a single Bitcoin mining rig running one of these proprietary ASICs may be the equivalent of 20, 30, 50 GPUs.
That's interesting because I was wondering. Yeah, I mean, I was wondering. So, what happens if you invent a GPU tomorrow that can just process all the Bitcoin in the world in a few seconds? Does the value of Bitcoin drop all of a sudden? But what you said is interesting. They can make the algorithms harder and harder and harder. So as people create custom ASICs that are much more powerful, they can just make the algorithms more and more difficult, I assume.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you have got some coins out there that have made the conscientious decision to actually make via the algorithm that they're using to make it ASIC resistant, as they call it. It will make it so hard to try and make one that it's not even worth it. So thereby it keeps it within the realms of mining using GPUs, for example.
Interesting.
So yeah. I mean, once you get to the stage of proprietary ASICs, you're into the big boys game, as it were, at that point, because these things aren't cheap, as you can imagine,
Right.
to run because of the power costs. They're quite costly in most instances, and also to actually buy the hardware to do it. So, for home enthusiasts like myself, like yourself, people listening to this, that's why mining using a GPUs is still the sweet spot at the moment.
Okay. So can you show us some pictures of your mining rig?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, okay, I'll just, here we go. Alrighty, here we go. Can you see that?
I do, yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So that's my current mining rig. Like you see, it's at the bottom here, it's just a standard system board with an entry-level Pentium CPU, 8 gigs of memory, but I could have got away with 4 gigs of memory. So that's the other thing. Like you rightly said it before, the heavy lifting with this is done via the GPUs. The CPU, for all intents and purposes, is really just ticking along. It doesn't have to do a heck of a lot. As with the drive, it just needs to be of a particular capacity. I've got an SSD there. That was just a 40 gig SSD, old one that I had kicking around. So just for speed and booting up, I used that. And memory, like I say, I could have got away with 4 gigs. I mean, depending on the cryptocurrency, some are a little bit more memory hungry than others, but generally, rule of thumb, you won't need any more than 8 gig in your mining rig. One thing you'll notice with this, I've obviously got the 6 cards along the top here. So I've got, at the moment, I've got 3 AMD RX 470s and 3 570s in there. I'm running 2 power supplies, like you see there, the power consumption. With these 6 cards, to give you an idea, at the wall, I'm drawing around about 850 watts. So, I could be running that white power supply that you see there. That is actually a 1200 watt power supply, so pretty hefty. But just to keep things, on an even keel, so I'm not, not running that particular power supply too hard. I've got the second power supply added in there, which is I think it's about 600 watts. that other one. One other thing you'll notice with this as well, you may think, okay, right, my standard motherboard, how am I getting 6 GPUs connected to a motherboard? And you'll see these, they're called risers or PCIe risers here, with effectively as a USB cable coming off the back, connecting up to the PCIe slot on each of the GPUs. And this enables you to remove the GPUs off of the system board, above the, above the system board. So it's away from it. So that actually solves 2 problems. One is a cooling problem, because these things are running at sort of 80 to 100%, 24/7. So, they've got to remain cool. So this is great because it's an open air rig. It means that, the airflow, the heat can dissipate a lot easier. Obviously, having it in an enclosed case, if you've got 1 or 2 cards, is more efficient because you can actually direct the airflow over the cards much more. But you find if you get over sort of 2, 3 cards in a standard desktop case, assuming you can even fit them in there, it's just generating too much heat for those fans to sort of effectively cool them. So that's where an open air rig like this is particularly good, because you've got more fresh air around the cards. You can leave a larger gap between the GPUs. On there, you can bring them away from the system board, and like I say, the heat can dissipate into the room. Obviously, that's why you've got to select your room pretty carefully. I mean, over here in my new home in Massachusetts, it's winter here at the moment, so this is sitting in my garage. So this is fine. But, if I was in a small room somewhere warm, yeah, you would not want that, because those cards would down after a couple of hours. So that's that. And the other thing I will say, with anyone can do this, right? I mean, if you've got a PC with a graphics card in it, if you want to dabble your toes and, dip your toes in the water with this, I mean, there's no reason why you can't do it. You don't need 6 cards. You don't need 10 cards. You can do it just with 1 GPU. To get used to the software. And like I say, this will run on multiple operating systems. So let's talk operating systems for a second. So this will run on Windows, Linux, and there are proprietary OSs, mining OSs out there based on a particular cryptocurrency. So for example, with Ethereum, which is a very popular
cryptocurrency,
that's the word I'm looking for. Cryptocurrency there at the moment. There's one called EthOS, which is particularly good, which is based on a distro, which is a highly modified distro of the Linux kernel, from what I gather, and that's particularly good. That's almost plug and play. You just get your cards, plug it in, it'll pick up the cards, and away you go. You point it at a mining pool, or you start mining on your own. But this system board here, going back to the system board, this is kind of unusual, and this is a new board that I bought a short while ago, because my other one was starting to play up a little bit. This has actually got 21 PCIe slots on there. Now, your average motherboard out there, those of you that have built your own PC before, will know that generally PCIe slots, you may get anywhere between 4 and 6 PCIe slots on a board. And even then, it doesn't mean that you could actually cram 4 to 6 GPUs on the board, just because of the spacing between them. This one here is particularly good. It's got 21 slots on there. They're only PCIe times 1. You don't need high throughputs between the system board and the GPU, so you don't need times 16 or anything like this. But this, using those particular risers that you can see in the picture there, give you the ability to host up to 21 GPUs without having to buy another system board. Let's say you got to 6 and you want to go to 7, 8 cards, then you'd need to have another system board, another power supply, another operating system, more memory. Whereas this, I can actually scale out to 21 GPUs if I wanted, without having to add additional operating system, SSD, and all that type of thing. So pretty good stuff there. I'm just going to fast forward on to another picture. This is just the rig from another angle. That's me with a tape measure. What happened? I'm at 6 GPUs. I mean, keep in mind, I've been doing this for a while. It's not like I've just thrown a ton of money at it. I've been doing this for a number of years, and I've just been picking up GPUs as they've come on special. Because, it goes through peaks and troughs. At the moment, we're in a massive slump, so you find that people won't be mining. So you probably find there'll be a glut of cards on the market again now. So it's a good time to actually pick up some cards. But I had to build a bigger mining rig. So this is the aluminum. See that? Been in America now, calling it aluminum opposed to aluminium. And basically this is what I'm building at the moment. It's a larger rig. It's a 2-story one. Should allow me to get up to about 16 cards. fact of the matter, I'll probably never have 16 cards, but it just allows me to add additional cards if I want to. I did manage to pick up a couple of cheap cards a while back, so that's why I've had to take it from 6. I'll be taking it up to 8. So I figured I might as well future-proof it as I went, and that's where I am at the moment. So yeah, very, very exciting stuff indeed.
Very cool. Very cool. So you're running Windows, you said. So inside Windows, is there some Ethereum.exe, or I mean, there's some application I'm assuming you download from the internet to run and process or mine the Bitcoins?
Yeah, there is. Like I say, it's nothing. It's just a bulk standard Windows installation. Actually, alongside this, you could be running anything, any of your day-to-day stuff, as long as it's not graphically intensive, because obviously your GPU is sitting there going all out, trying to resolve these algorithmic problems that it gets thrown its way to get its share of the payout for that particular block. So on top of the operating system, yes, you have mining software. Generally, each of the cryptocurrencies out there will be based on a particular algorithm. So let's say at the moment, I mean, there's over 100 crypto coins out there at the moment. Some are just rubbish. They're called trash coins. They don't serve any particular purpose. They've just created by people are having a bit of a punt, as it were. Then you've got other coins out there, such as Ethereum, even Bitcoin, Litecoin, Neo, all these other coins. They're backed well. They've got a good development team behind them, and they're actually being created to solve a problem, not just for the heck of it. So these different coins are based on particular algorithms, and then what you'll generally find is there will be mining software based on a particular algorithm. So you download that software, and then depending on the command line parameters that you pass it, will determine what coin you want to mine.
Oh, okay.
So if I went from algorithm A to algorithm B, well, I'd probably have 2 bits of software for that I'd be running. And generally, you only mine 1 coin at a time. I mean, there is some software out there that allows you to mine 2 different coins at a time based on the same algorithm. But as a rule of thumb, it's a 1-for-1 mapping on there.
Okay. So every morning, let's say you wake up, have your cup of coffee, you check your mining rig. What is it that you generally see? I mean, is it can you tell, like, hey, I made $10 yesterday, or whatever? I mean, what are you monitoring? What's your daily view of what's going on?
Yeah. Well, basically, I can see my hash rates. Actually, we never spoke about this ahead of time, but I'll tell you what I do. I'll show you what I see.
Okay.
So I'll just bring that up if you don't mind just bearing with me.
Yeah.
So here we go. I'll show you what I see. So there's nothing confidential here or anything. You'll get to see my public address or my public. So that's the other thing. Where do you store these coins as well once you mine them? And as with any cryptocurrency, you have a wallet for a particular currency.
Okay.
So obviously it's a digital type wallet, and that's where you store them. Obviously highly secure. You have a private key, public key. It's all hashed and what have you. So people will have a very hard time trying to hack it. But basically, what you'll see here is my public address. It's like giving out my public bank account. So it's not like people can take money out of there at all, because I don't have my secret hash at all. But they're more than welcome to deposit stuff if you want. For each crypto, generally you'll have a wallet. Now, wallets can be stored online. Generally, don't recommend that you do that. You can run wallet software on your particular PC, and then obviously you want to back that up. But the other thing you'll get as well are these little sort of hardware type devices. This is a product by KeepKey, and this is what they call a hardware wallet, where you can actually effectively store your cryptocurrencies on here.
Does it have a display, or it plugs in like via USB, or?
Yeah. Well, the great thing with it, unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to show you because I've got to plug it in via USB, and I don't have the cable long enough. But it's not actually battery powered or anything. It takes its power off the USB, and it's all stored on the writable memory on there.
Very cool.
So it's all stored on there, and it brings down the transactions that let's say you've deposited, someone sent you some money on the blockchain there. It'll go out, it'll identify that you've been sent X amount of a particular cryptocurrency, and then it will show what your balance is in that transaction on the hardware wallet. But going back to what I see every day when I take a look at my mining here, So what you can do when you go to mine, you can do one or two things. You can either go out there with your one GPU, or in my instance, 6 GPUs, to try and mine against a crypto currency. Now, the chances of me resolving the algorithm between, before all those hundreds of thousands of other miners out there that are doing the same thing are pretty remote. So what you would do is actually do something called pool mining. So what I do is I add my processing algorithmic, processing capabilities to a pool. And that pool will go out there and effectively operate as a single unit. And so that means my chance of actually being part of this pool, or the chances of this pool winning, being the first to resolve one of these, algorithmic challenges for a particular block is a lot higher. And then I get paid a portion depending on how much hash power that I've contributed to this pool. So this is a particular one called Ethermine. So I'm just going to go down here. That's what you see up in what I've just entered there. That is my public algorithmic, my hash key, sort of my hash address for Ethereum. This is what I'm mining at the moment. See, we'll see here, we can see the hash rate. So I'm currently mining 175 megahash.
Megahash, okay.
Megahash, depending on the algorithm that you're mining against, that will change. Some are more complex than others and what have you. And at the moment, you can see the unpaid balance. I've got one active worker, i.e. the single mining rig I have it sitting in the garage. You can see, you have stale shares. So let's say, some of the, let's say a block's been discovered before I send my work back, it will be deemed as stale. So it's only 2%, which isn't bad. I can see how it's fluctuated over the last sort of 24 hours or so.
Very cool. Very cool. That's something I had no idea, what you would see. I kind of pictured it like a infinite antivirus scan or something like that, sitting there on your computer, doing something all the time. So that's very cool to see. Let's see. What else do we need to know about mining and cryptocurrency? I know we're kind of pushing our time limit here, but where do you see this going in the future? I mean, just yesterday, in fact, there's a huge drop on the stock market and a big drop recently with Bitcoin. But what do you see happening in the future?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I have no idea, to be honest with you. I'm not a financial guy. I'm a tech guy. So I have no idea. I mean, it'd be nice to see things. That's the one thing I've learned. I mean, I've not only learned about the technology, the blockchain technology, cryptocurrency. I've also, it's sparked an interest in trading as well. Not that I do trading per se, but it's given me an awareness of what's involved with trading. Admittedly, this is currency trading, which seems to it fluctuates a lot more than your traditional a stock market type trading, unless it was yesterday, in which case it dropped pretty heavily pretty quickly. But cryptocurrencies will fluctuate a lot. There's a lot of speculation out there. A lot of people are still uncomfortable with the technology, but they don't want to be left behind, so they throw a bit of cash in there. But if you're going to do that, you've got to be prepared. It's a roller coaster. It goes up and down very, very quickly. So it has given me an appreciation of what's involved with, markets, trading, all that type of thing as well. So it's been a lot of fun from that perspective. I mean, I'm very, as they call, very bullish towards blockchain. I mean, I think it's a massive technology. It's not going anywhere soon. I think that I could almost draw a parallel in my mind between what we're seeing with blockchain now and what we saw back in the sort of early mid 2000s with regard to online retail shopping. I mean, back then, if you cast your mind back, people were just going, "Oh, that's never going to work. It'll never supersede sort of brick and mortar stores. Why would I buy stuff online? People will steal my credit card information, all that type of thing." Fast forward 10, 15 years. We're all doing it, right? We all buy stuff online. We're comfortable with passing our financial, or rather credit card type information over the internet. And blockchain, I mean, it solves a lot of problems. This whole decentralized concept behind it is interesting. But even if it is to some extent, banks seem to be looking into it. They'll be doing their own flavors of a particular blockchain, because quite often, because we're talking about ledger here, like if you were to send money over to the UK or the US or somewhere else, generally it takes a while for that money to get there. And, I don't know how much it costs, but the last load of money, because we moved over here, to wire money, it would cost about, 20, $40, something like that, to send money. And it may take a while to get over here. Whereas with this technology here, it's a lot quicker. It's a lot cheaper for a start, and it's a lot quicker for it to do. So that's why banks, from what I gather, are looking into this technology as well. So there's a lot of benefits about it. And like I say, it's not just about the cryptocurrency. It's not just about the financial aspect. It's about, contracts as well. Contracts between you and myself. So rather than being held on a bit of paper in a safe somewhere, it could be held on this blockchain, which is distributed everywhere. So it's not susceptible to manipulation or corruption or hacking or anything like that. It's secure. It's out there. So yeah, I think it's an amazing technology. I think we'll see its adoption probably happen soon, a lot quicker than everyone thinks. It's still the Wild West out there. So anyone sort of looking at getting in this, don't think you're going to make a fast buck or anything like this. Do it out of interest because you want to. If you even get into the trading aspect as opposed to the mining, be prepared to lose money. Don't put any money into any skin in the game, as it were, that you're not prepared to lose. So, but it's just because it's still finding its feet. It's a new technology. It's out there, but I think we're going to see it find traction a lot quicker than we think in all aspects of our daily lives. I mean, a lot of the big retailers this past week, Starbucks are talking about accepting some sort of cryptocurrency going forward. There's retailers out there, for example, where you can actually pay for actual physical products using Bitcoin, for example. There's a couple of airlines globally that accept Bitcoin. So it's getting there slowly, as people's confidence levels are growing. It's getting more and more traction. And like I say, the big drop we saw yesterday, not only with the traditional financial markets, we saw that on cryptocurrency markets as well. So, the two do seem to be in somewhat lockstep.
Yeah, and I saw, in fact, this morning, a news story about how they're going to be holding hearings today in Congress on the regulations around cryptocurrency, which, I mean, I'm not a fan of regulations, but on the other hand, in many cases, that's kind of the first step towards mass adoption, is when you have some sort of, structure and regulations about how things should work so that people have greater trust in them. So, yeah, very interesting, very exciting time. So thanks so much, Simon, for sharing all your knowledge about cryptocurrency and mining. Really cool vChats, fun getting back into it. I look forward to a lot more episodes on enterprise technology, virtualization, cloud, home labs, all kinds of cool tech.
Definitely. Yeah, I can't wait. It's great to get the series rebooted again. And no, I look forward to our next episode, most definitely.
All right. Take care, Simon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, David. Bye.